Hello guys, welcome to episode 14 of SNS Sports Media Podcast. I'm Cooper,
My name's Aaron.
and let's get right into it. All right, so as the trade deadline is rounding around the corner, it just seems fitting that we should get right into it with the biggest name of maybe all time as a rental, Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher slash batter that is on pace to hit like 58 home runs, I think. But the big question is, are the Angels going to trade him? Because feel like the Angels are like a 500 team that can get into it, but can easily just fall right off the board.
Honestly, as much as it would hurt as an Angels fan, they absolutely can't not trade Shohei Ohtani at this deadline.
Like if Shohei Ohtani decides that boom, I can get a lot more money and I could win a championship if I go to say the Rays or the Orioles or something like that. Because I feel like there's no good reason for Shohei Ohtani to stay at the Angels.
I think part of it is like could the Angels owner, could Artie Moreno live with himself if he trades Ohtani? Does he want to be the general manager that trades Ohtani? Or does he want to be the general manager that doesn't trade Ohtani and gets absolutely nothing for the best player in at least the last 100 years? Does he want to be the guy that allows him to go away in free agency and get zero in return? I mean, it's a lose-lose situation for the Angels, but like if you're thinking long term, you absolutely have to trade him right now.
Yes, exactly. And thinking about the Angels, minor leagues, their system is just completely depleted. Thinking out their top prospect, Zach Neto, already in the big leagues. He's doing good. But I mean, like after him, their minor league system was just nothing.
Yeah, there's not a lot. There's not a lot there. They've had a lot of swing and miss with a lot of their prospects and guys that they thought were going to be stars, just not panning out. I'm thinking guys like Joe Adele, who've had every opportunity to be not even like just major league stars, but just everyday major league players that can't handle it. I mean, there's a reason why the Angels have had Ohtani and Trout on the same team and can't put it together.
Yes, exactly. Yes, just saying that, and like what's crazy is that you have Mickey Moniak, the dude that's hitting like above 300. You got Shohei Ohtani that's hitting like 34 home runs right now. You've got Mike Trout, which is injured, but he's like probably a Hall of Famer. And like you've got like you just added more players like Mike Moustakas, Eduardo Escobar, if I'm correct. And like you already have the guys like Taylor Walls, and that's like just like not being able to put it together is just like really like embarrassing almost.
It is. So, I mean, what do you think? What do you think the Angels could get in return for Shohei Ohtani? Like, what's the return going to look like there? What could they be hoping for if they do decide to put him on the trade market?
So what I'm thinking. So it's already late, and the team that gets traded, most likely, if he's gonna get traded, is gonna have 2 months of him, only 2 months, and the rest is not a guarantee. So what I'm thinking you could either get 4 or 5 that prospects, or I'm thinking you could get a good prospect that could possibly be really good. So what I'm thinking the Orioles might go for him just because Jackson Holiday in their AA system is just doing awesome. And I feel like the Angels they gotta capitalize on trading and getting the best that they can get, honestly. And I feel like Jackson Holiday and maybe if the Angels really like push to the Orioles, they could put one of their infielders, most likely it's like the third base, like they've got a lot of third baseman prospects. Like you put Jackson Holiday and who random dude that possibly might have major league potential, and I feel like the Orioles have a great chance to land on the Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, I think the Orioles are in a great spot right now. I think they would say that they're ahead of schedule in terms of their rebuild, where they thought they were going to be, where they want to be, and everything else. That the American League East is absolutely brutal, and
Definitely.
somehow or another, at this point in the season, at the end of July, they're in first place. If you would have told the Orioles front office, hey, you're going to be in first place, the Yankees are going to be in last place on July 24th.
2 years ago, they would have been like,
2 months ago, they would have taken that. And so, for the Orioles, making a splash move right now might be the time to do it. It might also be, they have to be very careful though. The Orioles have been on a strategic plan to rebuild their roster, to get to respectability, to put together a contender. They're a little ahead of schedule right now, but they need to be very careful not to overcommit to potentially 2 months of Shohei Ohtani and try to go after a championship when they're on the verge of becoming like a long-term contender.
Yeah, definitely with guys like Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman up there, and Grayson Rodriguez just got recalled from his rehab assignments. Like he pitched a good outing against the Dodgers. Like those guys, they're carrying the team right now. And like you got good outfielders like Cedric Mullins, guys like that are just like perfect. They're just doing what they were supposed to 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, the tanking just worked.
All right, we've talked about the Orioles. Who else might be in? Who else might be in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes?
I'm not sure. Possibly, like, there's always gonna be teams like the Rays, or like what I'm thinking right now could also be the Rangers. There's teams like the Dodgers that like are always gonna have like that prospect stuff that could always just go out there and do it without their prospect minor leagues just exploding. But like maybe the Rangers, like guys like Josh Young, and just their pitching is awesome. But if they went out there and got another bat they could slide in between like Marcus Semien or Corey Seager, that could just make their elite offense electric. And just adding another pitcher in there could be just the verge of them being playoff contenders to World Series contenders.
Yeah, I think to consider trading. There's a few teams that if you're the Angels, you got to be really careful about trading Ohtani.
Yes, definitely.
The Rangers are one of them because you don't want to, within the division, you don't want to see that. You don't want to see that, or be reminded of what could have been. You know, 12 times a season when you're having to face him. Now, granted, there's no guarantee that whoever Ohtani gets traded to, there's no guarantee that he signs there in the off season. But you got to figure whoever he gets traded to is going to have the inside track to being able to re-sign Ohtani. But Rangers, you got to be careful trading him to the Rangers. You got to be careful trading him to the Dodgers. Both of those teams might have the firepower to pull off a trade like that. But man, that'd be tough.
Get their hands on him, that'd be crazy. Another team that I'm thinking about that if they get traded to, they would probably be the best team in baseball. Maybe you can make the argument that they're the best team in baseball right now, but that is the Rays. They have always have a loaded farm system, and right now their president of baseball operations, Eric Nieder, has made it clear that like they're gonna make a splash with the trade deadline. They got their eyes wide open, and he told a reporter, the front office, they have resources to absorb a contract like Ohtani's. Like they have the front office for the Rays. They know that they can pull off a stunt like that, but they just got to be careful, just like the Orioles. Like you don't want to like mess up the whole season, the trajectory, like going 13-0. You don't want to like mess up the group's morale and stuff.
Yeah, I think at the same time though, like nothing cures morale like winning some ball games.
Definitely.
And so, putting yourselves in a position to win the AL East, or even just like really, you just got to get in the playoffs.
Definitely, like just get a wild card position.
Just get in and figure it out later. I think the Rays could be a good fit. I think most of the teams that are going to be desperate to pull off a trade like that are the teams that are fiercely competing for playoff spots. And so it makes me think that like he's bound to be in the American League.
Definitely. Like the National League is just
I
been a
mean,
disappointment this year.
National League's been kind of a disappointment. The best team out there are the Braves. Best team out there
Like,
are the Braves.
after the Braves, you just got like these teams that should be good on paper, but just aren't.
But and even then, you know, it's hard to justify any of those teams spending big money, or not even big money at this point, but like emptying out their farm system for Shohei Ohtani. You think about teams like anybody in the Central, the Reds or the Brewers. Neither one of those teams are going to want to give up too much. They know that they have no shot at re-signing Ohtani. The Cardinals, a team that maybe, or the Cubs that would have the budget to sign him long term, they don't have the prospects in their farm system to be able to do that. And I don't know why either of those teams would want to spend at the trade deadline
when they're way above
when
500.
when they're fighting the Pirates for who's going to be the worst team in the division. The Mets have been a disappointment. They've always been willing to spend money, but I can't imagine them doing that. The Braves seem to be
like the Mets, like being a team that possibly trade Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander.
Yeah, and so it seems like he's destined for the American League. Seems like he's destined to the American League. I'm really interested to see how this plays out.
Yes, definitely. I mean, like just watching the team that gets Shohei Ohtani is just gonna be crazy. All right, so we've talked about Shohei Ohtani in this beginning section. This next section, let's just talk about the trade deadline in general. So the trade deadline, it's gonna be very interesting talking about Shohei Ohtani and just more teams that just could make a splash. And like we were already talking about the Orioles early in the episode for Shohei Ohtani, but if they don't get Shohei Ohtani, it's not like, oh no, we're doomed. Because like there's still guys like the Jack Flaherty, Jordan Montgomery, Lucas Giolito, and Lance Lynn, like the Orioles. What I'm thinking, like they have a good starting pitching, but once you get past their 1 and 2, you're just like cross your fingers, hope that they can do something.
Well, they've been good so far, but if you're a team that's in contention, it's almost malpractice not to bolster your starting pitching. Starting pitching is where everything at the trade deadline starts and ends with starting pitching. And so, going after guys like Jack Flaherty or Lucas Giolito, Jordan Montgomery, any of those top level trade rental pieces, those are going to be guys that everybody's going to be going after. And so, the market's going to set a pretty high price for those guys. But I think that, the Orioles outside of Jackson Holiday and whatever, he's kind of untouchable unless for some reason Shohei Ohtani becomes available and you feel like you've got a good chance of signing him long term. Jackson Holiday is untouchable.
Yeah,
but I think that they have a deep enough pool to where they can target one or two of those veteran starting pitchers that have some playoff experience to kind of push them through the ceiling.
Yes, definitely, because like we're talking about like the Rays and the Orioles, like they have great minor league systems. So like they have the Cardinals. Say if you want Jordan Montgomery or Jack Flaherty, you could always go like the Cardinals are just looking for like a pitcher and like maybe another pitcher or maybe just like another position player just to trade and just we did bad this season. Let's restart and let's start over next season, 2023. We got this. For the next one, we're talking about Marcus Stroman. Marcus Stroman is a big name for the trade deadline, but let's compare him to Yu Darvish. So in dealing Darvish, the Rangers received Riley Calhoun, a consensus top 100 prospect, AJ Alexy, a recent 11th round pick who cracked LA's top 20 prospects, and Brendan Davis, an A-ball outfielder that was a fringe 30 prospect in the Dodger system. Because of the levels he reached since 2015 Tommy John surgery, Darvish was viewed as more of an ace than Stroman is right now. So this means that a type of package is probably the ceiling for Chicago in a Stroman deal. So like when you read this, you're like Chicago could get a good top 100 prospect, a top 20, like 3 top 100 prospects for Marcus Stroman. And like, if I'm the Cubs, really, yeah, I mean, you kind of got to take it with the season they've had.
I mean, I think that's the sort of deal that you're looking for if you're the Cubs.
Yes,
You know,
definitely.
you signed Marcus Stroman. You hoped for the best in terms of your own season. It hasn't worked out. He's an impending free agent. You got to get something for him right now. And you know, at the end of the day, if he wants to go somewhere else, the Cubs could offer him a contract. He turns it down, and then they get a compensatory pick there in between the first and second rounds. Fine, whatever. You could go that route, or you could dump him off and trade him to somebody else and get 2 or 3 guys.
You might as well do that.
You got to do it. I mean, what's the difference? What's the difference in finishing third in the Central and finishing fourth? There is no difference. There's no real upside. There is no real upside to keeping Stroman. You're not going to make the playoffs, and so you might as well retool for next year.
Yes, definitely. All right, we were already talking about this pitcher earlier, but let's compare Jack Flaherty to Noah Syndergaard. Like Syndergaard a year ago, Jack Flaherty is a supremely talented right-hander. Remember, it's like he's coming off of a rough injury, but coming back into the season, he's doing pretty good. Plus, Flaherty is younger than Syndergaard was, and he hasn't shown like a drop off how Noah Syndergaard did. Like his stuff just stopped working, and like it won't be as much as Syndergaard was, just because like he's not like one of those big aces like Marcus Stroman, but like he's still really good. But Syndergaard was pitching on a better rate basis last season, but with fewer innings as the Angels protected him in the 6-man rotation. So you don't get as much like testing for that you could see, but all of that to say is that the return for Syndergaard, number 1 pick, but at the time post-hype prospect Mickey Moniak, which I said earlier, above 300 player batting average, and an A-ball outfielder Jadeo Sanchez is probably on the low end for Flaherty trade. So when you look at that, you're like, man, they got Mickey Moniak and Jadeo Sanchez. Like, wow.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem for me, and I think for any Cardinal fan is going to say this. But you know, people are talking about trading Flaherty. They're talking about trading Jordan Montgomery.
Yes.
Those are like the only 2 pitchers that have shown anything for the Cardinals this year.
Then you get to Mikolas, which Mikolas is fine. But
Mikolas is fine. Matz, up until recently, Matz has been terrible. Dakota Hudson has been terrible. Wainwright, as much as I love him, he's been terrible. And so, you know, if the Cardinals are dumping off Flaherty and Montgomery,
and possibly one of their outfielders,
I don't even care about the outfielders at this point, because the Cardinals have that backlog of outfielders. Mm-hmm. We can trade. I keep saying we, like I'm part of the Cardinals, but like the Cardinals can trade Dylan Carlson or Tyler O'Neill or even Lars Nootbaar, and it won't really matter because they'll just plug. All those guys are interchangeable. Yeah, they're interchangeable. But when I think about starting pitching, there is nobody to replace Montgomery. There is nobody to replace Flaherty, and so things are going to fall off a cliff real fast this year. If the Cardinals are going to trade those guys, they better get pitching in return. They better get some pitching in return. And it doesn't, I mean, just guys that potentially can be major league ready. I mean, it seems like every guy who maybe could possibly be okay that's in the minor leagues, and at least in Memphis, has already come through St. Louis, and it's already been.
Yeah, and so like Thompson, like Zach Thompson, guys last time he was out.
Liberatore, like
yeah,
all of those guys are struggling really bad, and so we got to trade those guys, because otherwise we're going to lose them for good. But we need to pull in something that we can plug in at the very least. They need to be guys that are going to be ready to go in 2024.
Yeah, definitely. And to think we could have had a pitching staff of Flaherty, Montgomery, Alcantara, and Gallen.
We don't talk about those. Are 2 names that we don't talk about on this podcast.
And then another Cardinal, Jordan Hicks. This comparison, like, it's the biggest stretch here. Craig Kimbrell went across town from the Cubs to the White Sox. He is one of the sport's most accomplished closers in the midst of a revitalized season. Just like Jordan Hicks, he's doing great this season. But he had ERA was super low, WHIP was super low, and he had an additional, albeit expense, a year of team control remaining. Now, Hicks has none of that, but since taking over the closing role in St. Louis, the 26-year-old, still young, has been electrifying with a 1.93 ERA since June 14th. Like Kimbrel, this period of dominance follows some rocky times when you're more willing to ignore that you're just hoping to ride the momentum for another 2 months. In sending Kimbrel to the south side, the Cubs brought back Nick Madrigal, a top 25 prospect who had played well in the majors before suffering a season-ending hamstring injury in July, and Cody Hewer, a controllable big league reliever. The Cardinals did not get particularly close to that package back, but Hicks's tantalizing stuff makes him the kind of pitcher who might fetch a quite big price. Um, uh, the stats say that he might.
I think that what the Cubs got back in return for Kimbrel, I think that's exactly the kind of asking price the Cardinals. I mean, that should be where it starts.
Yes.
Because I think Hicks's stuff, like you said, Hicks's stuff is electric. And he throws harder than just about anybody else in the league. He's been fantastic this year. And all it takes is one team. All it takes is one team that's in the middle of contending who just thinks like we need a lights out fireballer in our bullpen. And we just need one team to pull that trigger. And when you look at the teams that are in contention, you look at how many teams are in contention, somebody is going to be willing to pay the Cardinals that price for Jordan Hicks.
Definitely.
The question is, who's it going to be, and which top prospects are the Cardinals going to get back in return? I think that for him to be on the market, for Jordan Hicks to be on the market, and somebody not to go all in is
would be crazy. Like,
yeah.
I would just be shocked.
It'd be crazy. It'd be crazy for a GM not to just go all in on Jordan Hicks.
Yes. All right. So, we hope you liked this episode. A special thanks to Clutch Points, The Athletic, ESPN, and MLB.com for all the facts and stuff. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell so you're notified whenever we launch a new episode, and we'll see you guys later.